very often show up to discuss the show itself, so we have a very, very rare privilege. I'm not sure what to expect, to be honest with you. He emailed me and said, here's the title of the panel. 60 minutes of Jhonen Vasquez sitting at you. For all I know, this guy's gonna come on stage, sit there, and stare at you. Which would be pretty damn funny, I'm not gonna lie. That was the greatest panel ever! The JVP seat holders are like, wow, I sat all the way up front for that. That would actually be epic. But, no, you cannot have his Pepsi. No, you can't have his water bottle. No, you can't have his chair. You're scaring the hell out of me. 2 magical words, restraining order. All right. Excellent. Or just, yes, ma'am? Yeah, he's going to show up in a couple of minutes. We're taking care of something. You going to play it and listen while he's walking on stage? Okay. It's very, very meta. Okay.
Can he answer questions while he's sitting at us?
I don't know. That's a great question. I can't answer that question, but it's a good one. Does anybody else have any questions for me about the questions? Yes, you have a question about questions? You don't have a question about questions. You're questioning whether you have questions about questions. How questioning, yes. Is there anything you cannot do? There's a whole list of them, and it falls under the category of common sense. Please follow common sense. Excellent, yes?
Besides common sense, do you think there's any questions you expect us to ask you know will annoy him so we can avoid it?
Refer to the common sense rule.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yes. Please stand by. Really? Ladies and gentlemen, would you like to see Jhonen Vasquez? Give him a warm round of applause. Here you go. The next 60 minutes, he will be sitting at you.
Hello. All right, let's get this going. It's going to be a lot of Q&A. If I don't like a question, I'll just slowly turn to the next person. I was in a thing earlier with Ricky, and everyone was asking me to do voices, and I'm not going to do voices. Other than this one, which is funny enough to me.
So you want to just go straight for the Q&A?
I don't have anything prepared. I was going to do this dance thing, but then I hurt my ankle. I know, it was incredible. It was incredible. There's this one bit. Yeah, let's do a few questions, and if I want to think of some other stuff.
Okay.
I'm just, you know.
We got to the chair. Are you sitting okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
All right, it works.
We'll start right here. See if she has a good question.
Yes, you in the shirt.
No pressure.
What's the most annoying thing a fan can do or has done?
You just did it.
I have 2 questions.
It's too many.
Yes, but still, how much money did they pay Ricky to say, I want to go dancing naked?
How much money did they pay him to say that one thing? Wasn't my department. Too much, probably.
Another thing, what is it like knowing that there are hundreds of fangirls out there that would most definitely, if they could, tie you to their bed and rape you brutally?
There's little wee ones here. That's gross.
I approve of this question.
Okay, let's try to do a less awkward question.
Now that Invader Zim is like canceled, what have you been doing lately, like for work and stuff?
What have you been doing? Stuff. I got in my car, I drove home, and then I've been home. After it was canceled, I went home, and I've been there since. I finished some Portal games. I've been slowly whittling away at Super Meat Boy. A lot of games. No, a lot of what I've done for the past couple of years is the stuff that people really get to see. Some of it is like film development stuff, things that usually, most of it never pans out. I did some work on a heavy metal movie that was going to happen at some point, but I had 2 segments in a proposed heavy metal movie that David Fincher was producing, and it was doomed. It just had no. It was adult animation in America, and it was an anthology thing, so all things incredibly unfriendly for the audiences around here. So I did a lot of work on that. That took several months of my life, but nobody sees anything of that because it just didn't happen. I've done a lot of writing for various other books and stuff. I've done work for something actually we're going to show later on today. For another animation studio, stuff that isn't mine, but that I just designed, visual design stuff, a lot of stuff, but mostly games.
All right, I have a question, and but before I ask it, please don't hate me, please don't bludgeon me or any of that. But
I already don't like where this is going.
Out of pure curiosity, out of the purest of curiosity, what is your opinion on bronies?
No. Don't be rude. Next question.
I was talking to somebody the other day, and I'm a huge fan of Jaws. And I had mentioned that to them, and they said if you had caught wind that you might start singing Once More with Feeling. Is that true? Are you also a fan of Jaws? And if you are, have you ever worked with him? Have you thought about combining? Because with your sense of humor and your talent, the two of you together could do some amazing stuff. And I know he's into comics right now, and I can just imagine what the two of you could produce.
Joss Whedon. I wouldn't say that I am a Joss Whedon guy, but there are things that he's done that I love. Like, I'm a huge Firefly fan. Anytime there was any personality or weird jokes in the Avengers, I love that stuff. Where a personality shines through. Like the bit with the guy playing, what was it? Was he playing like Gallagher or something? Little things like that. More so than the CG thing, punching the CG thing where my brain shuts off. Little bits of personality. He's amazing with that sort of stuff. But I wasn't a big Buffy fan.
Just pushing the envelope, because he's good at that.
Well, I don't know if he's pushing the envelope so much as he's incredible at getting his personality through in a project, which is rare, especially in something with like a superhero movie where you're adhering to all these these predefined, this has to happen, this character has to behave like this and this and this, but he got a lot of humor and stuff into that. and that was great. So I dig what he does, but I don't love everything he does.
So you wouldn't team up with him?
I doubt that is. I don't know if there was like, would you like to team up with Joss Whedon thing? He does such a thing. You know what I mean? He does his own thing, and I do my own thing, and we might kill each other. I don't know.
Have you ever had a dream of any of your creations? And if so, describe it.
Honestly, no. I think I've had dreams inspire bits and pieces of things that I work on eventually, but for the most part, no. I don't remember most of my dreams. It's just kind of one of those weird things. I think I sort of use it all up being awake. But no, I've never dreamed that I, was flying around in space with Zim or murdering people with Joni or anything like that.
On the rare occasion that you do a voice for Zim, or as an extra or something, you usually do it under the name Mr. Skolex. I know that there's a full name, but I'm not even going to try and pronounce that because I know I'll mess it up.
It's Kanker.
Okay. Is there a story behind where that name came from?
I just love tapeworms. That's where that comes from. I'm fascinated by parasites. I think it's really neat.
Your thoughts on Zim and Dib romance?
Security? I do have actually a couple of thoughts, not like outright, horrible things to say. It's not directly related to that, but I was watching, I didn't go to this last InvaderCon thing, the first one, and I watched, I couldn't get through all of it, but I watched some video of the crew, the voice actors reading through one of the unproduced scripts. And all you could hear during this episode were girls going, So it really, I knew this before, but it really just sort of put a spotlight on how so many of the fans are watching the show wrong. It's possible to watch a show wrong. They say that once you make something, it's no longer yours, it's in the hands of whoever interprets it. Also wrong. Because the major tenets of the show are sarcasm, cruelty, and violence. Affection and, warm, fuzzy things, anything that would inspire, it's not in the show. It's just not in the show, so anyone responding to that in that way, there's something wrong with that. So maybe the show attracts a large portion of broken people. Next question.
Hello, Jhonen. I was wondering, how did you come about working with Mindless Self-Indulgence, and what was it like directing a music video?
It was very fun. They were fans of mine. I think mainly Jimmy was a fan. And they contacted me and asked, basically, it was just very straightforward. We're fans of your stuff. Would you be interested in doing a music video? I was fans of their stuff. I said, yeah. And it was, I didn't work directly. The band never really shows up in the videos. I don't work with them. I would just occasionally meet up with Jimmy every now and then and go, here's what we're doing. And I'd say, that's looking cool. And it was pretty smooth. And there's no money in it. There's no money in it at all. It's just because, we're mutual fans. But that's how it came about. They just emailed me.
Awesome, thank you.
I had seen that you are influenced by David Lynch, which is one of my favorites. In what way has he influenced you?
Just on the subject of dreams, everything of his is just I love anything where the behavior has a sort of controlled, unnatural feeling to it. That feeling that you get when you're in a dream, or that sort of Alice in Wonderland feeling of, this is just the way people behave in this world, but it makes no sense in the real world. It's just that you're trapped in this place with people who you can't understand. It's like being here. It's like, I don't get it. I don't get anything. Mulholland Drive is one of my favorites. It's just some of the most terrifying stuff without being a horror movie. Like, I go to a horror movie and I'm never scared. I'll leave and I'll go, that was cool, how that monster killed this person. But that's not scary, because you're dead. There's nothing scary about suddenly being dead. You know what I mean? Yes. Being trapped in something that you don't understand and is horrifying because you don't know how people are going to react to this or what they're going to do to you. That's nightmarish. And he just is amazing at conveying that feeling. In Mulholland Drive, that scene, I always pointed this scene for like what I think of as horror. When they were in, what is the restaurant? It's like the Denny's, it's like a Winkies or something. It's a Denny's, it's daylight, and it's two guys having a conversation about a dream that one of them had. And it's full daylight, it's a Denny's, and it's the scariest vibe of anything. Like a Denny's, you know? And I love that he can do that with very little, seemingly very little effort, just masterfully. Just there's like this low frequency hum, and there's this, the camera is like kind of hovering as if someone's watching them, and it's just the most normal situation in the world, but it's awful feeling. It's just this creeping dread, and I love that he can do that.
What was your reaction when Nickelodeon came to you to make a show, especially after, you know, the whole Johnny comic books?
I thought it was cool. Seriously, that's it. I answered this yesterday, but it was the opportunity to do something that I hadn't done, and I, you know, was a big fan of a lot of the stuff that they'd done, Ren and Stimpy, and I just thought, wow, I could do that. I didn't know if I could do it. I didn't know how it would turn out, but sometimes it's just kind of, it's cool to not think things through.
I read from your blog that you were a gamer, and I was wondering if there was any specific type of games you prefer, or just...
I like all kinds of stuff. I generally don't like sports games. I'm not a big, like, football but I do like racing games. I love racing games. Anything that's, like, highly competitive. But I love platformers, I love shooters, I love everything. I'm like not one of those guys who are like, you like Call of Duty? You know, I only play RPGs. Or it's like, I play everything. I prefer, is this working? Yeah. I prefer things to have kind of like an escapist sort of fantasy element to it, but I mean, I just played through the Max Payne 3 and I was crazy for it. Everything. I'm very late to it, but I'm going through all the new co-op stuff in Portal with a friend of mine. And, it's just everything. I love puzzles. I have like a million. My iPhone is all games. Just puzzle games, word games, everything. I just, if it's done well, or even if it's not done well, like Earth Defense Force, it's like I will play it.
Back here.
So first, I really want to thank you very much for the show. I've loved it ever since it originally started. Second, I just have a question. I know that you really like the piggies throughout the show. I'm just wondering, what was the obsession towards the end with the moose?
I don't think there was an obsession with anything on the show. I like piggies. I think it's a funny word. Visually, I like drawing anything that looks like, there's balloon. They like the balloon animals. You know, it's not even literally a pig. Or literally, like Minnie Moose is not really a moose. He's a pig with antlers. In the way that I draw them. I just think that it just kind of became a go-to thing, like using the word doom. Like no one on the show particularly said doom a whole lot, but it just stuck for the show. Yeah. So no real obsession. it was just kind of a thing that we just kept going back to, moose, and they're just stupid sounding things. Certain words are just funny, and I don't know where it comes from. It's an emotional thing. Tom, let us know when we're
I'm watching time for you.
because we want to have time to show whatever this thing is. It's a clip for the show that I worked on. I did all the designs for it. I've never seen the trailer, so you'll be watching it with me, so if it's horrible, don't blame me.
We want that right at the end, right?
A little bit before the end, in case people have questions.
Yeah, we got time. I'll watch. Right.
Okay, so I have two questions. One is, I've been wondering, how old is Zim and Dib?
Dib, I always imagined being around like 11 or so. Zim is older than any of us in the room. I just love the idea that these guys lived, like Urkins for whatever reason, lived on a way longer, timeline than humans, but still have the mental capacity of just idiots. Just
My friend and I have been arguing this over a while now. What color is Urkin's blood exactly?
Kind of like Klingon blood, but transparent. Like transparent pink. Oh, technical stuff.
Where's the bathroom on the Enterprise?
I've noticed that you have a very strong cyberpunk theme along several of your comics.
I like drawing machinery.
I was wondering about steampunk though. What is your stand on it, and would you ever end up doing comics steampunk related?
No. I think it's there's, depending on what it is, there's some pretty attractive stuff, just design-wise, visually, but I don't really have any ideas that sort of fit into that, and it's kind of a thing that it just seems a little done for me. Like, I don't see myself adding to it.
When you first started the show, did you have any idea how the characters were going to look, like their designs?
Yeah, a little bit. I knew Zim was going to be a play on the typical little green Martian kind of character, and he kind of got a little bit away from that, much harder edges. They started off as much rounder designs, but Dib is just kind of the natural progression of the kind of a template character that I draw. Like, he just looks like my usual thing. They developed as we were working on the show, like coming up with all the original designs. When I had the idea, I didn't know what they were going to look like, but when it came down to like designing them, they popped up pretty quickly.
Hello, I was just wondering if you intended for the characters to have any kind of character development throughout the series, or if they were just supposed to have the same kind of, character build throughout the...
For the most part, the characters were, like, the show resets itself after each episode. We didn't want to worry too much about through lines and characters learning lessons or anything like that. That wasn't what we wanted to do. It was just for laughs. So towards the end of the show, we wanted to bring back little things like Dibs, having Tax spaceship and stuff, because it just lets him get a little bit more mobile. Like, he can get off Earth on his own whenever he wanted to, but that never happened, so sorry.
You said something about Super Meat Boy. I was curious, correct me if I'm wrong, but you did do the soundtrack cover for the soundtrack to The Binding of Isaac. I was wondering if you ever played that game.
I didn't do the cover for The Binding of Isaac. No, you're as wrong as I've ever heard anyone be. The composer, Danny B-Star, as I know him on Twitter, asked me to do some work for a collection of, it might have been the Isaac stuff, like a special compilation of it, but I didn't do any of that artwork for what you've seen out there.
I do have a second question. I was wondering how you...
Oh, she has a second question.
I can talk.
You got the first one wrong. Get this one right.
I was wondering how...
Make this one a good one.
Okay. I was wondering how you came about doing the music video for the song White.
Oh, I already answered that question. Yes, I did. Wake up!
I'm sorry.
I was curious, ever since I read about this, what possessed you to come to a place full of us?
I'm glad you asked that. I make terrible mistakes. Terrible, terrible mistakes. Hello. You are all my mistakes.
I have 2 questions this time. One, lasers.
People are getting greedy. There's a lot of people here, and everyone's like, I got 2 questions. I got 3 questions.
It's all about me.
Okay.
Okay. Lasers or smoke machines?
Normally, like those questions, I would just kind of like, but lasers, definitely. Glowing things.
When you were doing the show, were you actually planning on adding more perfection to the characters of Invader Zim as they were progressing on through the show?
More what?
Perfection.
Perfection.
More, since you're so goth, I mean, I was wondering.
So, I'm not hearing anything he's saying.
Since you're so goth, were you planning on putting more
Oh, walk
perfection?
away from him and ask the next person.
All right?
You're little people.
Towards the end of the series, space, the world building of like outer space was getting more developed. Like with abortions and people like that. Were you getting? What were your ideas for later in the show for like how that was going to develop?
I had just something that was actually going to be a more all-encompassing threat to Earth and all of the universe that at some point might be cause for all the planets to team up and fight just to save their own lives. But that never happened, so I'll just steal that idea for something else. So I can't talk about it. Otherwise,
I'm back here.
Hi, Whedon. Since you like games, what's the hardest game you've played, and what's the easiest game you've played?
hardest games I've played, like where you're just frustrated and you're genuinely cursing at the screen, are rare for me because I'm the best at games. But I don't know if it would be hard anymore, but I remember really, really hating the first Devil May Cry. Just where you would beat a boss and just be like, oh, yes! I got you! And then just walk away from the TV. And then walk back and play some more. Recently, I can't remember, games seem way easier. Binding of Isaac is really unpleasant to play. It's fun, but it's frustrating. Because you die and you have to finish the game in one sitting. Like old school kind of games. So that's maybe the last one where I'm like, why am I playing this? You know? But enjoying it.
Do you read any webcomics? And if you do, what's your favorite? And have you heard of Homestuck?
I've heard of Homestuck, I've not read it. I'm never going to read it now. Because you asked me to.
Yeah. Hello. I was wondering, it said that, like, in the unfinished episode that Zim can't live without his pack. But in one of the episodes, you've seen Zim work on his pack. How does that work exactly? Does he have to be in contact with the pack at all times?
In the episode, the unproduced one, that was called 30 minutes to, what is it? 10 minutes to doom. See, I have to ask you guys to know what's happening in the show. He survives without it for about 30 minutes, so if he works on it 10 minutes. Listen, I don't watch the show, okay? Honestly, I don't know as much as you guys do about the show, so in the episode, 5 minutes to death, Zam's backpack sticks to tube. So he can survive without it for a little while, and after a certain point, he dies. So we thought about this. So that's why whatever I'm talking about is B.
Over here. By the way, less than 30 minutes now.
Okay.
Hi, I've been watching your show since the 1st grade, and I've noticed that since...
How are you feeling?
I've noticed that during the progression of the show, the animation has changed, that the lines have become thick. And I've been wondering if you prefer the new style of animation or the old style, and for what reason?
Oh, definitely the newer. The show, as it was going along, like every show, it develops, it matures, it starts to settle into what it's going to be, which we never really got to. But I can think of certain episodes where the characters look more like they're supposed to, or the way that I think they're supposed to. But with an audience, you know, they aren't in on the design process, so they just see things changing, and they're like, the characters are looking weird. Or like, if you look at the first season of The Simpsons and then watch The Simpsons now, it is so ironed out, which is good and bad. Like, the first season, you know, was really ugly, but it had a lot of character. And now it's like there's hardly any animation at all. Everything is really stiff. I don't think we were going for that with the later Zim episodes, but we were definitely trying to get the characters to look a bit more solid. Like, I can think of, like, Walk of Doom, to me, is like the Do Not episode for Zim. It's the ugliest episode I can think of. And people might love it, but in terms of what we were going for, that was like, what have we done? Oh, God. Gas, Taster of Pork, or the Christmas episode look way more like the show. It's just a thing that happens as you work on something more and more.
Alright.
Were you surprised by the change in Zim's character from like how hostile he was in the first season to the sassy Zim and Rika?
I honestly can't relate to what you're saying because I don't think about it like that. I don't think, did Zim change? They're like, I don't think of them in terms of like, there was season 1 and then season 2 we're like, this is where Zim's gonna get real. Like, I think like in Fry Cook, is that the one that you mentioned? In Fry Cook, I can think of a sassy Zim where Zim is sitting in the booth with a character and he's like eating his fries, like, so anyhow, he's like doing that thing. Which for that moment, to me, I remember writing it was funny just because it's so not Zim. That's why it was funny to me. Because who is this guy he's talking? The guy doesn't even know who Zim is. That's the joke. That the guy doesn't even know who he is, and Zim is talking to him like they're best friends and they're like on a lunch break, you know? So I don't think of it as like Zim changed, I just think of it as us being incredibly lazy writers.
Over here.
I grew up with artists like you and Terry Gilliam.
I didn't grow up with you. I've never seen you until today.
I mean, your art in general. And it's certainly influenced me as an artist and a writer. I was wondering if, as a kid or as a teenager, if there was anything specifically that sparked your creativity.
I usually point to movies as like my inspiration. I mean, I grew up with a lot of the usual 80s kids stuff, I mean, cartoon-wise. Transformers and G.I. Joe and stuff. Transformers